Okay. I checked your literature review and Braulio, and needs a lot of work, lot of things that need to look at. So I included some links of some web pages that I think will help you. We need to really focus on paragraph development and the organization of your ideas. You need to have at least one citation each body paragraph. Also, you're missing some citations, so you need to have more evidence, that is citations that support your ideas. So I left some comments in there. Take a look at those comments. Make those changes. If you want me to look at it again, I'll look at it again, and I'll look more deeply at the grammar. Right now, I'm not looking so much at the grammar. There's a few words and phrases that I'm suggesting that you avoid, like words like important. Use important like 11 times. Very, use very like 9 times. Those are words that typically we can avoid. I'd rather you try to find other words to describe that. So the reason being, I'd like for you to be more descriptive, more specific in certain things that you're talking about. But in general, look at each body paragraph. I've included a link for where regarding the meal plan, basically. The meal plan is an acronym that I use to remind writers how to develop paragraphs. So every paragraph should have a main idea, evidence, analyze, and link. So take a look at that, and when you're ready for me to take a look at the work again, send me an email. Now, I also included, I highlighted the section where your literature review should go. So the whole template basically is designed for you just to kind of insert information into the appropriate place. So I think you have the text at the bottom of the template. Go ahead and move that text into the section that is designated for the real literature review. This week, in fact, today we need to finish the method. So today is the date to finish with the method section, which is 500 words. That includes the participants, the instruments, and the procedure. It also includes your instruments that you want to use for your data collection. So perhaps we should discuss your instruments. Do you have,
being honest,
questions?
my focus in this rising session tutoring session is to ask you if this work would be useful for me to get ideas for my thesis. It has the information, and it also has an instrument that I could use.
And so I would prefer that you find published work. And this looks like I'm not sure exactly what this is. And is this yours?
No, it's someone from Turkey.
Okay. And you want to use this for
well, just as a support. If I can find out ideas that could help me with my work, I think.
Is this research? Is this a research project?
Yes, so it's a research project from Turkey.
Yeah. I would prefer like published work, like in articles and journals, and that's the preference. And again, as long as you don't rely too much on it, the idea here being that, I'm assuming you've already finished your literature review, correct? But so you need to add more. Is that what you're asking? If you can add this to your literature review that you've already.
Well, my idea is just to look for information that could be useful. I mean,
Okay.
not to steal the whole work or
I
to
understand.
do something very exact. You know, I mean, just if I can find ideas that could help me to
And
support it.
have you been able to find work? Have you been able to find articles and books and magazines and journals? Have you been able to find those types of information?
Well, I didn't put the links here, but I have found three PDF works that are related with my topic.
Are those PDF documents journals, magazines, books?
They are also thesis work from but from international origin. I mean, from
Yeah.
teachers from
I would
other countries.
prefer peer-reviewed journals and published books, published magazines, and published journals. Those would be my first suggestion, and good websites because you can also include reliable websites. Those would be my preferences before thesis, dissertations, and work like this. And I'm not saying that they're bad; they're valid sources, but I would prefer that you find peer-reviewed journals, magazines, books, um, and reliable websites. Those would be my preferred main types of data, and you know, and the university has immense amount of resources to to help you find articles related to your research, right? And so I would start there. I would focus on those types primarily, and not so much thesis or dissertations or work that hasn't been published in a peer-reviewed uh, article, journal, or a book.
Well, our thesis works so bad alone. They're really bad to not.
No, they're not bad. All right, don't misunderstand me. Thesis and dissertations are reliable sources and they're good sources, but I would first try to find public, peer-reviewed, published articles, books, magazines, and websites first. Okay. So now, with regard to our data collection, do you have any questions? Do you have any doubts about what you need to complete for today? Or
Well, no, not exactly because that was my objective of today. That you received the the archive, the article, my thesis work, and if I can use this basically.
okay.
And well, about the question about if I can use this, those articles, thesis work, but you told me that it's better to find for English.
I would prefer that you would find peer-reviewed, published articles. There's nothing wrong with these. This is a good source. But I would prefer that you find peer-reviewed articles, primary research articles that are peer-reviewed and published in a magazine, in a journal, and you know, like here we have these types of journals. Like here's a journal. These are different types of journals. Right? These are just three. If you go online, you'll find many more journals. Right? I would prefer that you find some article from these types of journals or magazines, okay, or even books, published books.
But what is like the difference between a research book and a journal?
Right.
Is there any difference, or
is there a difference between a research journal and a book? Or are you saying is there a difference between a thesis and dissertation and the four types that I'm talking about?
Well, I mean, for example, let's imagine that, for example, I find out a book, but I check it and it is not related to much like the information of a journal. So how can I identify the difference between a normal, typical book and a journal.
Okay.
Is there any difference, or are they quite difficult to identify because they are similar?
All right. A journal typically has different articles that are part of the actual journal. So one journal will have different articles.
Okay.
So if you open up the index here, the contents, the table of contents, you'll typically see, in fact, it'll say here articles. And you know when they use the word article, it's a journal. Okay. So,
I understand. No.
So
a typical book is like the organizations from the same author with paragraphs, subtopics.
Okay, so let me finish my explanation.
Yes.
All right. So we have this. Typically, when you see the word article, and you also see things like volume 66, number 1. When volume numbers refer to journals. Journals use that word volume to indicate what journal it is. Okay. So when you see the words volume and volume 66 number whatever, and you see the word articles and it has different articles with different authors, you know that it's a journal. Now, in a book can be like a book can be written by one author or one set of authors. Okay. Right? And a book can have different chapters, but it's all written by one author. That's one example. Or you could have a book that is edited by some authors, but that consists of chapters that are written by various authors. So, a book that has different authors will have chapters, and it will be a published book. There'll be a publisher, and that will be identified that will publish the book, right? And these editors are the ones that reviewed all of the chapters. They probably got together with all these different authors and said, hey, we want to put together a book on discourse analysis. We want, maybe they have certain criteria that they're looking for. So we would like to have these topics, and maybe they coordinate it with the authors, but the idea is that all the authors are writing their chapter on one topic on discourse analysis, and that all of these topics together come in together to form a book that has different perspectives around the same topic. Okay? So this would be a book, but again, the books can also have one author. But for you to identify a journal is very simple in that if you're looking for an article, you're looking to go to a journal. You need to find a journal. Okay. This is another journal. Volume. If you open up here, these are the articles. Okay. And so these are the differences here. And if you're going online, if you're actually going into, for example, the university library, you can go in. Do you know how to access the databases in the university library?
Well, I can enter into the page, and I can see but some of the books, not all of them.
Okay, so if you go into Biblioteca, okay, and then click on Biblioteca Digital. First, we're going to go to, let's see, Centro Académico. And here are the databases. Let's say you want to find a journal. You can go to EBSCOhost. This is a good one. There are many here, but for our purposes, for our topics, Gale is another good one that you might find useful. Oxford Journals, there are several there. There are various ones here. And let's just go into EBSCO just to show you an example. Once you go into EBSCO, you'll have to enter your ID. So it's AL plus your ID, and the password is your birthday. Once you enter with your username and password,
the date of your birthday as a
your password.
password.
Uh-huh.
But do I have to already have or use an account, or can I use the
No,
base
as a
just with
student, here at the university, one of the benefits of being enrolled into the university is the ability to have access to all of this information.
Okay.
So here, in fact, it looks like they just changed the format a little bit. I'm going to click Búsqueda Avanzada. And here you have an opportunity to enter keywords. So depending on the topic, depending on what type of research you're doing, you're going to input certain types of keywords, certain types of information. So let me just use an example here. Video, EFL, classroom. Jeez. Click here, texto completo y publicaciones académicas. You have to select these so that you get the entire article, because some articles you don't have complete access to. So if you select these options, all of the results will be articles that you can download and have full access. You can access the full article. So you click buscar or search.
Well, that's very important because there are some books that present some information, but not the whole information is accessible.
So these aren't books; these are articles. Okay. So what EBSCO is for journals, for articles.
Basically.
All right. So here's one article, right? And you see here texto completo in PDF. If I want to look at this, I can open up this document, and I can access the entire article. Now it's a little bit slow right now, but finally it opens up. Okay. Now let's see if we can. Wait till it opens here. Well, it's awful slow here, but you should be able to open up the document here.
Well, the importance is the procedure.
Now, yes, here we also have another database called eBrary, and this is for complete books. Not
just books.
Yeah, like this, a book, complete book. It's not a journal, but a book. So if we open this, you can access complete books. So let's say we go into eBrary. And let's say we type in some keywords, EFL classroom and video. And I'm using the operator and in all uppercase letters to look for both terms. This is a Boolean search. It's called Boolean search. Boolean search is also what we did in EBSCO when we searched. Here's the article. So you can download this whole thing to your computer if you want. Okay. And here you see we have books. So let's say this book looks interesting. You can open up and you can read the entire book. You have access to the entire book. Now you can't print the entire book, but if you find a couple of pages that's useful, I think it allows you to print out certain pages if you find something that you want. But another good thing about eBrary is that you can bookmark. So let's say that let's say you do a search here, search document. Let's see. Oops. Yeah, keywords. So let's say I just want to look for the word video in this book. Now, let's see here. You can click on this arrow, and it should take you to the next occurrence. There's the first occurrence, video camera. I click on it again. It looks like that's the only occurrence, so maybe that's not a good example. EFL. Let's see if we have different. But it will find the search, and you can go find that information. So let's say you find some information. let's say that this information is really important. Okay. All right. You can up here. You can. Let's see. Add to my. All right. Add to my bookshelf. Saves the book. Okay. And let's say you want to highlight this. Click on the highlight. Maybe. Let's see. Okay, so I've highlighted it, and I'm going to add this to my bookshelf. Okay, looks like you need to sign in, but you sign in and you can save information here in your bookshelf. Okay, so we need to talk about some other things, but these are some resources that you have available as a student here at the university, and you can take advantage of a lot of information is available for you by looking at this information. This is what most students are using now to find and get information from articles and books. Obviously, you can go to the library also. You can find, books outside of the university. Right? But these are some good resources that you have available that you can take advantage of when doing your research here for the schools.
So eBay is focused on books, only books, and Gale.
Well, we have EBSCO. eBay's for books, EBSCO's for journals. The rest of them are for journals, like Gale's for journals, Oxford Journals, obviously. ProQuest is another good one that you can use. This one's for dissertations, though. I would focus on ProQuest. I think they have another one for just published articles. And there's another one that's free that's called ERIC. If you go to Open Access and click on E, go to ERIC. This is another database for articles. And everything we've talked about here is being recorded, so you can also go back and see how we got, where you can find all these databases. Okay, so, yeah, that's where you can find that information.
Okay, thanks for the.
Now, but what about the instruments? Do you have doubts about the instruments? We need to be. The thing is, Braulio, on Monday you need to begin the data collection. We only have 3 weeks. Okay, 3 weeks to fill the data collection. So I need to know where you're at with your instruments and what participants, your procedure, all of the information that we need to upload by today for the method section.
This will not be useful then. This fail.
Well, if you find an instrument that you want to use, okay, if you find something like an instrument you want to use from that, that's fine. But I'm not sure your question. Are you asking me about an instrument?
Well, if I can use this, but not exactly the same information, but if it could be useful to create one, but obviously based on this one,
Okay.
It's already proven in a certain way.
I'm sorry?
Well, I mean that since this thesis work and the questionnaire here is already checked, my question is if I can use this as a base. I mean, if I can.
Yes, you can use any instrument that anyone has used, as long as it pertains to your research questions, and as long as that you cite it in your paper.
Okay. Well,
but I'm still. Do you have questions about your instruments? I mean, do you know?
well, my question is, how many questionnaires do I have to do? I mean, is there a number of participants, like a minimum number of certain participants?
All right. Did you upload your research questions in Google Drive?
No, well, only
The research questions.
Work.
Okay, but not the research questions.
No.
Okay. Just so you know, the research question should go at the end of your literature review. Do you have your research questions available? What are your research questions? Because before I can answer your question about how many participants, even what instruments to use, we need to discuss the research questions, because the research questions are the main focus of your research. Right? So, do you have an idea about the research questions that you want to use?
Well, one is uh, how, well, asking the teacher how you deal with students with certain, the previous base of English, based on reality.
Remember the last tutoring session we talked about your research questions,
Um,
right?
well,
And we threw out some ideas, right? And um, we need to think of research questions, not necessarily questions you're going to ask the teachers, but research questions. And I think you were talking about authentic material. You're talking about video. I remember something about video. And what was the skill that you wanted to focus on?
well, it doesn't matter if the question looks like simple, like for example, how you as a teacher apply reality
Okay.
to teach
All right.
vocabulary.
We need to focus on the research questions, okay? And don't confuse the research questions with questions that you might ask participants. They're related, okay? But I think we talked about, how how do teachers use videos to what?
To teach vocabulary.
All right. So we talked about vocabulary. So to teach vocabulary, yeah, that's more or less. I mean, you need to suggest to me. You need to include research questions, and I really need to look at your literature review, and we need to really play catch up here. Okay. Now we've got three. Here's the thing: if we don't finish our data collection in 3 weeks, it's going to be really hard to complete the whole process. We're uh, so we. I don't know how to proceed. I don't know. I can't. You need to tell me what research questions you want to work on. That has to be based on a literature review where you have found the literature, that you found information. Because if you ask research questions and you can't find literature, well, then that's not good either. So, um, and we can't talk about the design of the instruments until we have the research question. So this is a process, and um, so I think we need to talk again next week, early next week, when you have thought about the research questions. You've done a little bit of research and have found, you've looked at your literature review, made the changes, and let's talk early next week. I'm not going to be here on Thursday and Friday, so we need to schedule a time, preferably on Monday. We need to meet again on Monday and figure out what we're going to do. What are your research questions? And you tell me what instruments you want to apply, or ask questions about which instruments. But most of the students are choosing between 1 to 3 participants. Most students are observing approximately 3 classes. Most students are applying interviews. Some students are applying interviews to teachers, interviews to both teachers and students. Some are applying questionnaires to students. But it all depends on the research questions. It depends on what you want to research and what the focus of your research is. And the focus of your research, again, goes back to the research questions. So when can we meet next week?
Monday.
Okay, what time?
At well, what is the at what time do you go?
I'm available from 7:30 to 11 and 12 to 12:30.
At 12. Could it be at 12?
Okay, so 12 to 12:30. I'll see you here. Bring to class your research questions. Now, either have your research questions uploaded in Google Drive with the literature review. Hopefully, you can have time this weekend to finish make the changes to the literature review as I've mentioned. But what I really need are the research questions for Monday. And you come in with the research questions and some ideas about the instruments. Okay, look, if you find an instrument like in this thesis, okay, or some other instrument that you think will work, but I need to also see the research questions, right? Because I can't help you. We can't decide on instruments without not knowing the research questions. Okay, so that's what we focus on Monday. Alrighty.
Y si no, en caso de que le podría ayudar para hacer una tesina que ya estuviera preparada para el siguiente curso.